Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live Conversations, a public lecture series brought to you by the Aga Khan University. Today's conversation is basically centered around rebuilding after loss. So if you're here thinking this is going to be such a sad conversation, no, it's not going to be glum, but it's going to get a little intense. And if you're ready for that, I promise you it will be worth your while. But before we get started, I want to call on stage Dr. Lukoe Atwoli, who is going to introduce all we're doing today and get us started. Dr. Atwoli.
Good evening. Good evening once again. Welcome to the Live Conversations. This is our version. So a university has multiple missions. And one of the missions is to create knowledge, to curate knowledge, but also to share the knowledge with the public and with the people for whom that knowledge is helpful and is useful. So this is the Medical College and AKU's way of bringing the expertise that we have available at AKU, the expertise that is available outside of AKU, and bringing it together with the people who might benefit from this. So, and we made it a conversation so that it's also participatory. You will have an opportunity to say things, you'll have an opportunity to ask the panelists questions, and it's just going to be a nice, cozy conversation. So I'm very happy to see all of you here. Thankful that you made it, despite what's happening outside, and I look forward to a wonderful evening together. Thank you very much, Shiro.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Atwoli. A hand for the Dean, excuse me. All right, so like I said before, this conversation is basically centered around rebuilding after grief. Right here on stage, I have a few people who might know a little something about that, starting with someone who looks very familiar. Introduce yourself, sir. I know you, but yes, maybe they might not.
Thank you very much. My name is Farid Kimani. I have been in the media space for more than 2 decades. My assumption as to why I'm here, no. The reason I'm here is obviously rebuilding after loss, and that was really rebuilding a life after battling with addiction through drugs and alcohol. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you very much, Shiro. Good evening, everyone. My name is Wanjiro Mureithi. I run a company called Wanjiro Exclusives, but I think my most treasured title in life has been Mama Muthoni. Over 13 years ago, on the 11th of May 2012, I lost my daughter who was 14 months. Graça Muthoni Sereti was a gift we had prayed for and waited for a long time. I became a mother pretty late in life because I was approaching 35. And then we only had 14 months with her before she left us. So that really shakes you and breaks, everything you know about reality. But after that, since I'm still here, clearly, I've been able to rebuild. One of those things was I was living abroad at the time. I came back to Nairobi, and I was happy that I could move back into my parents and sort of figure things out. And the company Wanjiro actually would not have been existence if it wasn't for that one event. And I'm still here with gratitude about what Muthoni brought to us and what she gave us and what we have been able to rebuild after that. Thank you.
First of all, because my name is Wanjiro, so the play on words, Wanjiro, listen, consider it stolen. Go ahead.
All right. My name is Beda Olabu. I am human anatomist. I teach here at Aga Khan University. The main reason I'm on this stage today is not because of anatomy, though. It's because I'm also in one of those people who have gone through loss, and in particular for me, it's been loss of my 3 siblings and then loss of my 2 parents. Not at a go, maybe serially.
All right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Catherine Gitau. I'm a psychiatrist here at Aga Khan University Hospital. Also familiar with law, and I'm happy to be here.
And finally, with but I'm also familiar with loss, having lost my fiance in February last year, and also I lost my father, who was like my bestie, to COVID in 2020. Loss is something that completely upends the fabric of your reality. So Farid, can you talk us quickly through how
well, my addiction was, in the addiction world or recovery circles, you refer to it as active addiction. And my active addiction was 23 years of using drugs and alcohol. For me, there was nothing like losing a job or, losing direction in terms of career. All of that stayed completely on track. Most of the time, if any of you listen to me on radio, I was battling addiction through the majority of my career. But what was being damaged, what I was losing, was connection to my family and ultimately connection to reality as well. Until, making a decision 8 years ago to go away to rehab in South Africa in 2018, March 1st, 2018. Interestingly enough, and I was sharing this in the boardroom earlier, they have family days every 2 weeks in rehab. And there were 35 clients in the rehab center going through addiction treatment. And it was myself and one other person that no one showed up for. Wow. But you have to do all the family activities with clients and their families through the experience. And it dawned on me then how much damage I'd done, not just to my immediate family, which would have been, or my blood family, which would have been my mom, my aunts, etc., but also to my now ex-wife as well. And subsequently, that led to her leaving with my kids while I was in rehab. So when I came back to Nairobi on the 7th of April, 2018, the house was empty. This is not a sob story. We're on super terms now. We get along really well. I'm super present in both my sons' lives. I talk to my eldest son about addiction and alcoholism and things like that quite openly. I think that the loss and then the rebuilding, there's a joy in the rebuilding. Yeah. Obviously, it's not ideal to have to be in the space where you need to rebuild these relationships. Right. But there's a real joy in the rebuilding. And every day that I live in the world of recovery and purpose in helping other addicts recover, which is sort of the new direction in my life, it's another day where it sort of chips away at the guilt and the shame, I guess, a little bit here and there. Because you can't live in the past forever, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I should say. So loss for me was losing people.
Relationships.
Yes. And then, but the joy, like I said, the joy of being able to rebuild those is something so special, it really is. And a lot of times, people say, that people are still wary of, you're the same guy that did A, B, C, and D. But, people can change, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And that's one of the biggest learnings, teachings that I give addicts and their families that I work with, is that people can actually change. A lot of people say people don't change. I am living proof, and I speak to people weekly that are living proof that people can change.
I love that we've started this conversation on the tone of rebuilding, because again, it would have been really easy for all of us in this room to be like, so sad. Yes. Yeah. So Wainjiro, tell us about Muthoni.
Wow. Everybody says their child is the best, don't they?
Yeah.
But anyway, Muthoni was 14 months and 1 day when she passed away. So she was really active now and able to interact. And we were living in Johannesburg because I was working there. I had a government job. So I was working for the South African government. Everything was really high-flying, and we were making plans about what to do. What I decided to do with Muthoni is, I think we traveled right from the very beginning. So we had been home to Kenya, I think, 4 times before she was 14 months. And, the connection with the family back and forth. And we're planning a big trip to Canada where a friend of mine was getting married. Yeah, so, she's active and all that. And I remember actually the day before it happened, because the death was a result of an accident at home with the nanny. So you're at work and you get a call that just says, come home, something is wrong. That's all you receive as a message. And by the time I got home, clearly, if I work the events backwards, was something had happened, and the nanny had tried to take care of it, and maybe made the call too late. So as much as we try to get to hospital, when they tell you it's gone and you don't understand what that means at all. But the day before, I remember, I had gone to buy shoes because now she's walking, and of course there are those baby shoes, but now you're trying to get other sizes. And because she's very active, what I had tried to do to get her to wear the shoes is to sing a song. And there's a Sunday school song that says, I've got a shoe, you've got a shoe, all God's children got some shoes. You know that song?
No.
Anyway. The next line is, when I get to heaven, gonna put on my shoes, I'm gonna walk all over God's heaven.
Wow.
That's what the song says, right? And of course, it doesn't mean anything at that point in time. But now, later, when I remembered, it was really, should I have had a premonition? And what is destiny versus, I don't know, fate and all that? So, of course, there's very many memories, very many pictures. But I think what really has helped me is, number one, there's all the markers, right? So you have friends who sort of have kids the same age.
Right.
You know, so I know their birthdays by heart, all of them, because I had to remember, right? And then the other thing, like I was telling Beda earlier, is it's very difficult to organize a child's funeral. You don't think about it, but then it's a very difficult process. And sometimes, of course, the language used can be very insensitive to the people concerned. But we made a decision to bring Muthoni back to Kenya. And most so, it was because of my nieces and nephews. I have a nephew who's almost 30 now, so of course he was 14 or thereabouts then. And 2 nieces who are in their early 20s, so they must have been just under 10. But I made the decision to bring Muthoni back home, especially for them. Because if we had had anything done in South Africa, they wouldn't have been able to come. So within a very short space of time, you're being told you need to decide, what are we doing? Are we here? Are we there? You know, what do you want us to do? But there was a lot of community, both from, you know, colleagues, Kenyan community, family, the embassy, and even, of course, back here, a lot of assistance as well. And yes, she changed me as a mother. We had plans, and we continue treasuring her memory.
I love that.
I'm not sure I've answered your question, though.
You have told us.
You have told us
we will find out more about what kind of little girl Muthoni was. Okay? All right, from human anatomy to this conversation. Let's talk about that.
Well, yeah, so for me, I think I can start it that it happened largely in my formative years. We are 6 siblings. I'm the second born in my family. My elder brother is alive. I am second. My immediate 3 followers passed on serially, and that was when I was still in primary school. But I remember all of them. And what that just put on me was largely when you're playing with other children and their whole family is there and you can't see yours, like you remember that you buried them. It was very difficult. But now moving on to high school, then immediately after high school, I started nursing my mother, who was sick for quite a while. And immediately after about 1 year, just before I joined campus, she passed on. And then I joined campus with that grief still within me because we bonded very close with my mother. We had a lot to talk about many times. And then now, 1 year into the university, within my first year of university, I lose my father.
Wow.
That was very devastating. And so going through that journey of thinking, these are the people whom I relied on to just walk with me and, of course, support me financially. They are no longer there. So every time you are broke in campus, you remember that your parents died.
Wow.
Every time that you see someone's parent coming to visit them, of course, you can't be visited and you remember that your parent died. So for me, that was a long journey in campus. But one thing that I kept on reminding myself is that I am not responsible for that past, but I'm responsible for a future I want to become.
Yes.
So for me, that was very clear in my head, and it made me look forward to what kind of a person I want to become rather than where I have come from.
Yeah. I like that because that's a great segue into, the next part of the conversation. When you're right in the thick of whatever has just happened, and I like to call it the valley of the shadow of death, because when my losses were fresh, I had no idea if the sun was shining, if it was night outside. I didn't know if I was in Kenya, if I was in Mongolia. I had no idea where I was. And so I want to talk to you guys about when you were in the thick of things. What was that like, and how did you get through it? And we'll start with you, Farid.
I don't think, I think for a lot of people battling addiction, you don't really know you're in the thick of it until you wake up one morning and you realize that, you haven't looked in the mirror while brushing your teeth for a period of time. And,
wow.
Family will say, they might say things like you need to get help, or you don't look like yourself, and you just like, whatever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I do remember, interestingly enough, flying to South Africa. It was Kenya Airways, and I have a relative who got me an upgrade. This is to go to rehab. And, of course, like most addicts, what did I do? I started with the champagne and drank my way to Johannesburg. And I think when it dawned on me how broken I was when I almost missed my flight to rehab, which was in the airport I had to get to was Cape Town.
Oh, so you're connecting flights.
Yeah. But in the thick of it, let me go back to that. So in the thick of it all, I just felt myself deteriorating, becoming less accountable, becoming less responsible, not being able to sort of fulfill obligations like going to meetings, calling in once too often to work. But in the beginning stages when this was happening, I didn't really realize it was a problem. But as time went on, it was really just honestly not being able to look in the mirror at myself. And then getting to rehab, and the doctor took one look at me and said, 3 months. If you hadn't come here, 3 months. No blood work, no other lab work, no stethoscope on my heart, no blood pressure thing, nothing.
So to be clear, he said that if you had not gone to rehab...
Just by looking at me.
You had 3 months
maximum,
left.
She said. Yeah.
Whoa, that's intense.
And the decision to go to rehab was ultimately my decision. What caused me to make that decision, I don't know. Like, I don't remember the moment where I said, I need help or I need to go away. But something, we talk about, you mentioned, is there a plan, sort of divine intervention or whatever it might be. Something told me to wake up on a Saturday morning after a heavy night and turn to my now ex-wife and say, I need help. I need to go and get help. And that was it was a Saturday, actually, because I was on a plane Monday morning.
So is that would you call that rock bottom?
Yeah, that would have been rock bottom. But I think rock bottom for me was a series of really unfortunate events that led up to that Saturday morning, that hangover. Mm-hmm. But something, had I not woken up, had I gone through the same narrative of, it's fine, I'll feel better in a couple of days, I'm good, I'll go and sweat it out, or I'll whatever, or I'll go and have a beer at 9 in the morning to sort of get rid of the pain or whatever.
Wow.
Had I gone through that same cycle, I'm not going to say this chair would be empty, but I wouldn't be the one sitting in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm going to let that settle in the room for a second, because that's intense. And as that is settling, Wanjiro, let's talk about the moment when it all dawned on you that this is the worst day of my life. Let's talk about that day.
Okay, so I'm at the office and I get the call, but you hope for the best.
Yeah.
So I remember, you grab your keys and you move. I don't even know whether I had shoes on. Sometimes you kick out your shoes at the office. I remember I called my brother and I told him, please call the ambulance. I'm going home. There's a problem. And I got into the car and I just put hazards on. Luckily, I lived very close to the office. So I'm trying to call back. But of course, now she's not picking, the nanny who had made the call. And you just get in, and I asked for Modoni, and I took her, and we went to the car. Then I realized, of course, I can't drive and carry her. So, the nanny had to then hold her. And I'm trying to make a decision about which hospital we need to go at, because I still don't know the extent of the problem. And we go to somewhere really close. And I just park in the parking lot, and they can see there's a problem. You know the way the security tries to flag you down, but they can see there's a problem, because hazards and all, and I was just hooting. And we go up, and I just say, something is wrong. So, of course, they let you sit while they go and do stuff. So, of course, someone comes and tells you, Mom, just calm down, have some tea or whatever it is. Then I don't know how long it was when they came back and said she's gone. And I'm like, what do you mean she's gone? And I don't really remember what happened much after that, the screaming or whatever it is. And then now they're asking who they can call. But then somehow they go to my brother. I'm not sure whether, anyway, I don't know, they go to my brother. But then now I'm taken to the room where she is, and I tell you, I prayed every prayer there is to pray in the Bible. We're talking earlier, I thought about Abraham and Isaac. And I thought about Jairus, his daughter, who was brought back to life. I thought about Lazarus. You remember every of those people who were brought to life. And then after some time, they come and tell you, you need to stop holding on to her because of rigor mortis, right? So they say, let's go and put her on. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't know what you're talking about, because it's not making sense. She's not gone. Now, because it was an accident of that nature, the police were called, because then they have to, I guess, assess the situation. And I remember them asking whether I want to press charges. And I don't understand what that means. Because, I didn't suspect foul play. I just believe it was an accident. And then there was all these people, as the news went round, all these people came, and you don't know what to say to anybody, and they don't know what to say to you. And it's just a long time. So at some point, maybe later, even the clinic where the clinic we had gone to had to be closed because nothing could go on at that time. So anyway, the word gets round, my phone is wherever it is, but now you have to make a decision. So it's a Friday, and I remember they told me, so the police have come, they've gone, what's the next steps is that she has to be taken to a funeral home. So we have to decide where, and of course it depends on where you live. So we lived in an area called Midrand. So I think, someone makes a decision. And I'm like, they can't take her away. Where are you taking her? I want to go with her. Anyway, so that's the process. And then clearly we had to wait until Monday to make any plans around that. Now, this was Friday before Mother's Day. It was 11th May, I remember. And we go back home, and of course the nanny is there. And someone suggests that she has to go away, because really, there's too much going on there, and perhaps it's not the best thing for her to be there. So of course she's let go, and my friends are staying with me. But I remember telling them, I don't want them to, whatever they do, they shouldn't give me medication, because I want to feel every feeling about this moment. And of course, I took a call now from the family in Kenya. And of course, everybody's asking, what are the plans? I'm like, I don't even know. Can we talk tomorrow? Can we just let things understand? Can we just let this process go by? Yeah. But I think one of the most difficult things was also when they took her away, because now it's like gone. They are taking her somewhere where funeral home sounds nice, but it's not a funeral home. She's going to be placed somewhere cold and, so the rest of the week was very blurry, but eventually we did bring her home, and we had the funeral exactly a week after.
All right.
But then now that's the other thing to think about. When you're transporting a body home, they come as cargo, right? Now the process, like I talked about insensitivity earlier, or people maybe don't know how to speak to people in those situations, is we're going to get a casket. And I remember the guy saying something like, okay, I'll talk in Swahili. Of course, he wasn't talking in Swahili. Mtoto mdogo huyu, hahitaji like a good coffin. Because how old is this child anyway? right? So he's giving me the choices, but he's basically saying, Chagua hapa hivi.
Wow.
You know, because I mean, it's a child, right?
Wow.
And that process. And then, of course, the clearing forwarding process, you have to use a clearing and forwarding company because it is really cargo. We were on the same flight with her. I remember it was a midnight flight. Kenya Airways used to come to land in the morning here. And even just that flight, and there's people around you, but she's in the belly of the aeroplane. What my family did when we got to JKIA is at least they took me away, they took me home, and then someone else, of course, was handling the processing. And it didn't hit me until I was talking to someone later about that whole cargo situation, right? Because you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, everything was taken care of by the family, thankfully. And yeah, but then after that, if you ask me what happened that year, and my work, people were also very, very accommodating.
Right.
And all that. But this happened in May. I resigned from that job in October. As much as they were very, accommodating, it was getting to a point where it didn't really make sense for me to continue working. So then I came back home that December of 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I know that cannot have been easy. Thank you so much. Now, before I get to you, I want to talk to Daktari briefly about early grief, because that is, what she was talking about, those first few days after the loss of a loved one. Navigating that, like, what are the needs? Like, if I was caring for someone who has suffered such a devastating loss, what would you advise me as a doctor to do for them as they are navigating the early days of such devastation?
Okay. One common thing I hear people say is that when they've gone through a loss, people are telling them not to cry, take it easy, you'll be okay. But I usually would say the best thing to do is just to be present with the person and have them tell you what it is that they need, their needs. Like, what can I do for you? It's not so much being there to tell them what to do, but them telling you how they would want to be supported through that process. Again, during that time, there's shock. Most people are in denial. And as she's saying, you're so confused at some point you don't even know. Your mind is not able to actually comprehend the loss at that point in time. So I feel at that point in time, it's just best to support the person in terms of, can I get you something to eat? Can I get you something warm? Just the basic needs that the person requires at that point in time, and not so much conversation and trying to get them to fix them, because sometimes it's like we just want them fixed and don't cry too much now, or let's do 1, 2, 3. And also, again, when people are going through loss, there's a lot of let's start planning, let's start thinking about how this is going to happen, what's the next step. Giving people time to just go through the first few days without so much, planning and being involved in, making major decisions at that point in time, I think is important. For them to just have time to accommodate or comprehend what is happening in their lives. And just being present. I think it's just being present and guiding them, or having them tell you how they'd want to be supported. Because even I might not remember to eat, or I might not remember it's time to sleep, those basic things. Now you haven't eaten, let's have something,
You've kind of answered the question I was going to ask Ness, but basically, if I am a bereaved person or someone that has gone through a significant loss, what, as a medical practitioner and as a mental health practitioner, what are the things that then you'd say in these first days, just do this? Is there a solution, or am I like trying to put a pretty bow on grief? Like, what would you say?
That's a difficult question, because everyone processes their loss very differently. We can be mourning the same person, but we are all going through a lot of things in our minds. So I wouldn't say there's a specific is it a prescription for everyone?
Yeah.
But being present is the most important. At least feeling that there are people who are there for you, and allowing them to go through the emotions. If they're saying they're in shock or they don't believe, it's okay. That is where they are at that point. Yeah. And then sometimes I find that people want to keep reminding you that this person has died. You know, I don't know why it happens, but I keep hearing people say, yeah, they're gone, you know.
I know.
I don't believe they're gone. So just let me be.
Yeah.
Let me just stay in that space for now until my mind is able to comprehend.
Catch up, yeah.
That, okay, this is actually the reality.
Yeah.
I find that people like to talk a lot and try to say the right words, but I don't think there are any right words. And again, not saying that I understand what you're going through. No one understands what the other person is going through. So just let them be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just be there to support.
And also meet the physical needs, because those ones get forgotten about. Yeah. All right. Daktari, you talked about, you know, how suffering these significant losses, especially losing your parents, like within a short time you entering campus. And then now around you are these reminders that you are now orphaned. So was there like a loneliness there that you felt? Or like what were your feelings during that time, these formative years when you really need your parents and, you know, they're not there?
Yeah, definitely there was a lot of loneliness. And I agree that people process some things differently. Like for me, if I can remember when my mother passed on, I kind of saw it coming because she was sick for quite a while. And that, I thought, prepared me because I could actually see it coming. She was very sick for quite a while. I would be the one who would be with her many times because this was now after high school. Even washing her, that was very traumatizing for me as a boy child. But I had to go through it because there was nobody close that was able to do it. And because of all that journey that I journeyed with her, to be honest, sometimes I actually thought in my mind that her dying would be better for her. But when it happened, it hit me that it's actually true. She's passed on, and it was now difficult to deal with her absence. And that took me a while. I didn't show it on the face, and so the people around me knew that Beda is strong. I didn't quite show it so much. I was very overwhelmed by the fact that I need to join university at that time because it happened. She passed on in March, and the same year in September, I was joining university. So for me, my mind was more about processing papers and going to university, which I got excited about because I got the course that I wanted to join. So that didn't give me space to actually process everything when this thing happened. And people around me believed that I'm strong because I wouldn't show much of emotions to them. I wouldn't talk much about it. I would put on a strong face. So coming back to now joining campus, and then, no, before I joined campus, something significant happened that almost made me feel the weight of it. So this time that I'm processing papers to join campus, you know, for you to apply for HELB, Higher Education Loans Board, you need to show evidence that you're needy. And for me, one of the evidence is just to attach the death certificate of my mother. So I'm the one who processed that death certificate. The day I got the death certificate, I was so happy that I have a milestone, only to realize I'm walking in this town. I was in Kapsabet Boys. So walking in this town, Kapsabet, and I meet one of my teachers, and she asked me, what are you doing here? I'm like, okay, Mom passed on. I came to process the death certificate because I needed to apply for a loan. Okay. And I quickly just gave her the death certificate, like, I'm happy I've received it. It dawned on me, I didn't read the death certificate, I just took it. She's the one who read it from me. And it indicated that my mother died of HIV. So that hit me, because she's the one who's telling me she was HIV positive. And I was embarrassed because I didn't read it. Wow. I just took the certificate. So that's when it dawned on me that most likely my father is following. So for me, that was really weighty in the streets of Kapsabet. But again, I managed, put on a screensaver face and...
Screensaver face. By show of hands, who's heard of screensaver face? I haven't. First time. Go on.
Yeah, so managed through it. That night, I went and saw my father, and he was actually not feeling well.
Yeah.
So things started dawning on me. I didn't discuss with him the details of the death certificate. I just kept it safe, and I told him I got the death certificate, I'm applying for loan. It's interesting, he also didn't ask about it, so we played safe. So I processed everything. I knew my mother died of HIV. In all this process, my father is telling me that he is okay. At some point, then he became diagnosed with TB, and he would come tell me that it is just TB. Of course, I knew the other truth, and I believe he also knew the other truth, but we didn't confront the truth. So I didn't want him to feel uncomfortable. He didn't want me to know, but I already knew. So that went by, but now, after joining campus, or around the time of joining campus, again, something difficult happened. So for me, my parents were not really well off financially. We would struggle deeply so. And so where he was working, he was plucking tea at Nandi Hills. He was a tea plucker. So this time that I'm supposed to join campus, he's supposed to take loan to make me join campus. And he's denied the loan. And the reasons that he cited to me, I don't know whether that is actually what was said to him, but what he told me is that he was told he can't be given the loan because he's likely to die soon. So that changed my mind a bit about how else will I survive. I actually joined campus much later than my colleagues because of that. I didn't have money to register to join first year, but eventually he worked around it. He eventually talked to somebody who enabled the loan to be given, and then I joined university. So I'm in university, and I know my father is HIV positive. So I know that most likely he's dying soon. At that time, I didn't have much knowledge about HIV/AIDS, so I knew that once you're positive, it means death. So for me, that's the reality that I had at that time. And so this is what I'm trying to process, that my father is also following soon. Remember, I'm still putting that face that I'm strong, that I didn't have time for my mother's grieving, so strictly speaking. And so in first year, about just 1 week to our end of year exams in first year, I get a call that my father's passed on. So I went home, we buried, then I came back because we were around exam season. After coming back, that's when the loneliness started hitting me.
Wow.
When I would be alone in my room, I would actually cry. And nobody saw me cry, so I would cry alone. Many times. It used to happen several times. And I can't say that healing is a one-time event. It's a process, because the frequency of my crying reduced over time. But they were so intense at the beginning, when just reflecting on how will I even survive in college, who will support me financially, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I get on reminded that they have died, especially sometimes when you've gone for 2 days without eating and you're in campus.
Wow.
Then it reminds you that this is because your parents are not alive. So it became so difficult, especially in my first year ending and then second year, it became so difficult. But with the time, I came to realize that working with people also help.
Yeah.
And so there are a few people that I had to get in touch with to just work with. One was one of my classmates whom we had been in Capset Boys together. So he was my close friend, and I had to share with him what I was actually going through. And the other one was my physics teacher in high school, whom we were very close. He was the Christian Union patron, I was in the Christian Union, and so we were so strong in terms of relationship. So I had to just reach out to him and tell him this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And so I went to his house several times, and we talked together with the wife, and we talked several times. That made me lose a bit. And then, so the occasions of feeling so lonely reduced after I started talking about it many times. Then I chose to just talk about it to almost anybody who asked me.
So no more screensaver face?
Yes and no. Yes and no. The reality is that you'll not be very vulnerable to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely.
And so there are people that still have to put a strong face.
Yeah.
Even when I'm broken inside.
You know what? I think at some point in this conversation, we'll talk about the gendered ways in which people grieve, because I feel like men and women also grieve differently. But today in the audience, away from that, we have a couple more people who know something about loss. And I'm going to start with a young man with a very firm handshake. I don't know if we can pass him a microphone. Could you stand up and introduce yourself and briefly tell us your story?
Yes. Good evening.
Hi.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Ronald Kasioka. I'm a public speaker and also a keynote advocate. I'm also an author. I've written a book where I share my personal journey battling kidney disease for the last 6 years. Thank you. Thank you. For the last 6 years, to inspire and encourage other patients and also people going through difficult challenges, to show them that it does not matter what you're going through, that you can still live your life, do your things. You just have to believe in God and keep pushing forward. And we also started an organization where we are supporting children with chronic illnesses, now focusing on kidney disease and their caregivers. We offer psychosocial support and also creating awareness about kidney disease. And for me being here tonight, actually I never expected that I would be here, because it's funny how life sometimes gets to turn out, because my dream actually in high school was to become a pilot. And as I find myself in these spaces, being a public speaker and also advocating for matters to do with health, I can say that it's been a challenge. I myself having to go through the dialysis treatment, because I'm on dialysis treatment for the last 6 years now, 2 times a week. I'm preparing for a kidney transplant. And I can say that my journey is being a keynote advocate and also getting to share my story through platforms like this to inspire and encourage people. One thing that I've come to understand is that sometimes, because I'm a believer, sometimes God takes you through challenges that you'll be saving people from, because that is the only way to create compassion in your heart. Because I believe that pain sometimes creates that part of you that you get to experience what the people are going through, and that brings out the compassion part of you. And as I've shared, on dialysis treatment twice weekly. I come from my dialysis treatment actually just our next hospital here, 2 times a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. And I'm very happy to be here, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
I'm kind of obsessed with you right now. First of all, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 23, currently in campus. Finished my diploma last year in public relations.
Wow.
Currently now starting my internship. And I'm also a certified public speaker.
Take it from me, I don't know if you agree, Farid, because we talk for a living. You're doing good. You're doing so good. All right. Next to you, there's a gentleman as well who can tell us his story.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Isaac, and I'm standing here as a testimony that there is growth in people after they go through trauma and they go through losses. I lost my businesses some years back. It was when I finished campus, started working in 2011, 2012. I was able to accumulate quite some good wealth, but in the process, I lost everything. I lost my businesses. I lost millions of money, and I had some debts with the bank, and all of a sudden they called me and they actually actioned me. They took 2 of my vehicles, and I usually say I was now broke until broke people are encouraged when they saw me. I remember one day they took my car. I didn't even have fare. And as I was walking home, the sun also decided to really work on me. It was so hot. And I cried. I was just having tears all over. And as I was walking home, I felt I just want to die. And now I didn't know how to die. Yes, I had flu, but I knew the flu can't kill me. And I went home, and I took my laptop and I typed how to die. How to die without also feeling a lot of pain. I don't like pain.
And so chaotic.
And the internet, I was just looking for a single way to die, but I was spoiled of choices. The internet gave me 1,000 ways to die. And I explored all the options. And now, because my jobs had collapsed, I had all the time to watch 1,000 Ways to Die. and one of the things that I didn't like is that, like, everybody wasn't, like, the way everybody died was like they were so serious. And I was like, I want to, like, die smiling or something. And along the way, I was able to decide even the day that I'm going to die. Because, one, I didn't have a way of paying the debts. Mm-hmm. And also, like, I remember there's a bank that was so stubborn. And now, like, my dying will teach them a lesson, because they were really giving me a lot of hard time. So I planned for this day. I was going to really do it. That basically means I was going to commit suicide. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I chose over day, and it was so clear on how things will be.
Yeah.
And just before I did it, somehow, just by the help of God, I was able to find purpose. My first degree in university is ICT. But I found purpose, and I felt that whatever I'm going through is going to make meaning, and I'm going to be a hope to people in future. And I'm going to be a psychologist. I was like, what? A psychologist? How? And I believed, and I've really worked hard. Mm-hmm. Currently, I'm a counseling psychologist, licensed, and I have an organization called GPS. And that's how I wrote this book, The Deception Behind Suicide. I use a lot of CBT techniques just to challenge the existing thoughts, because most of the thoughts were lies, and I realized they are truths. And I say that today, even after the losses I had then, I've also faced losses later, but they found a different Isaac.
Wow.
I cannot be depressed again. No matter what I go through, I've built up the resilience. And I love, like, what we call post-traumatic growth. I've grown. And this is a science I've been studying, and I would want to tell people that regardless of where you are, you're able to pick up. By the way, all the businesses I had lost, I was able to build them back. Even the ICT businesses and all that. And then an extra master's in psychology. So just to say that there's a lot of hope for humanity. It's just a science that, like, the transformation of the brain, the thoughts, the emotions, and such. Yeah. So there's no laws that like supposed to kill us, but rather we pick it up and become better versions of ourselves. Thank you.
Yeah, Isaac, thank you so much for that. First of all, I'm going to find you afterwards, because if you're a therapist and you're that funny, I will leave lighter every time I come for therapy. All right, we need to take a break. We will take a couple of minutes, take a breath, and we shall be right back. If you're watching us right now on NTV, we shall be back.